Hi, I'm Cameron, and I don't just read comics, sometimes I watch them as well. In honor of the Falcon and Winter Soldier Disney Plus series being released, my friend Jesse and I are doing a review of every episode of the series. So here we are with episode number 1. Stay tuned to hear Jesse and I talk about the newest installment into the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Just a warning, there are going to be full and complete spoilers for Falcon and Winter Soldier episode 1. Make sure to subscribe to my YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram accounts, as well as clobber that like button and leave us a 5-star rating and review on iTunes. Now, here is our review of episode 1 of The Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Did you say you had a baby?
I said, let's just hit it, baby.
Oh, yeah, man.
That is going to be our intro.
I was confused for a second.
Well, oh my gosh, Jesse, welcome back to Cameron Reads Comics. But today's not even quite a Cameron Reads Comics. Today is the first episode in our very special Falcon Winter Soldier episodic release.
Yeah, it's our new gig.
I'm really excited about this.
About us podcasting or about the show?
About this series of episodes, because I think it has potential to be a lot more than it is.
I'm just like, it's so great that while we had to like miss a year of like movies,
yeah,
and not even like Marvel, like really a year of movies in general.
Mm-hmm.
Now we've got these shows that are like, honestly, watching that first episode was like, I didn't expect it to be. It was almost an hour.
Oh yeah,
and it was like watching a movie, man. And so like we have like 4 or 5 movies coming out this year in the MCU, and we've got these shows that are, and I think they're fantastic, man.
Yeah, these are movies in their own right. You know, it's gonna be 6 episodes. I thought it was gonna be 30-minute episodes, but that one was like clean 45.
I think it was 48 minutes long.
Yeah, and the credits take up about 10 minutes.
It's true. It is true.
Yeah, so it was good though. Like Let's just get into it, man. Then.
Let's go.
We got stuff planned for the series and what's going on. So first, I guess easiest question: how do you feel about the overall tone of the show thus far? Like, how did this? It's obviously such a departure from WandaVision, which was a departure from the standard MCU. So how do we feel about this thing as it is?
I feel great, and you know, like I said before, the WandaVision one was a little bit. It was tough for me the first couple episodes. So jumping into this format and formula that they're using like was great. Like the first opening action sequence was exactly what I expected and was fantastic. Yeah,
no, same here. I'm like, it's nice to get back to that bread and butter, and like, you know, I think they're really leaning into some of the tonal aspects of like the Winter Soldier, which was like a political drama, and it was MCU's take on a political drama.
Sure.
And so obviously action packed and everything, but I think that what we're seeing already and what we have seen in, like, you know, they're laying the foundation for the Flag Smashers, they're laying the foundation for U.S. Agent, and like all these things. I'm very excited.
I'm not familiar with Flag Smasher.
It's okay, because I looked it up before this and before the show. I just kind of like looked up, okay, who's the villains? Because we know Zemo, and then I was like, just who is this girl in the mask?
Right.
And that is, and I know U.S. Agent, but that is, it was pretty much a one-off villain that was kind of. It was a character. It wasn't a gang.
Mm-hmm.
And so
it was
really,
a singular character, not a group of people, right?
Exactly. And so I think this one is a group of people. And but I think we are obviously going to see some flagship members, meaning, you know, there's the one dude that they're looking after.
Yeah, the guy that kicked the dude's ass.
And there's that consistently girl with the curly hair that we see. And so... And their origins are not even very specific to, you know, the comics, because it's very much a product. What they say? They are in a. They thought the world was better when everyone was gone.
Was gone, yeah, sure, yeah.
And
they're with Thanos on that whole thing, right?
Yeah, and I actually really kind of like that we have a group that is very much Thanos was right. So
yeah, I really was surprised that, you know, it being like that first sequence was like a good 15-minute like action sequence. It very quickly morphs into like a show about the characters, and I love that they were building like the backstories for both of them. Like it was so good.
I agree. Like, you know what I realized as we were watching this, and even as like that first opening action sequence, and I think I'm gonna ask you just how you feel about that next, because there is stuff that was awesome.
It was awesome.
I'm like, that's the general consensus, but we'll get deeper. I realized during that action sequence, during like the filming of the show, this is the most time we've spent with these two characters. I was like, even in this, like, I don't know if they've ever gotten just like 20 minutes, each in the entire MCU.
So that like 48-minute episode was more than they got through the span of, let's just call it 10 movies when they were introduced. Like seriously.
Yeah.
And Bucky was like in the last two in Endgame and not Civil War, Endgame and the other one. The two last
Infinity War?
Infinity War, sorry, excuse me.
Yeah,
he had like 0 screen time.
Yeah.
Like he literally had like, he picked up Rocket.
Yeah.
And was like shooting some bad guys. That was it, man.
Well, yeah, and then he got dusted, so that's why he wasn't in majority of Endgame.
Oh yeah.
But even
Wait.
so.
Oh yeah, right in front of Steve.
Yeah, exactly. That was
the end. That was the end of the movie.
Yeah, I know, but then he wasn't at the beginning of Endgame. He was probably in the last 30 minutes or whatever it be.
You're right.
That's why. But even so,
still,
yeah.
They didn't get very much screen time. So giving us their stories and like the way that they're playing it out, I think is really good. It's really fantastic, especially Sam's like story.
Yes, it's two sides of these characters that we have never seen, and that's what I really am like. I think that's going to be the biggest strength of the show. And like again, like WandaVision, it's going to be they're taking B-list characters and they're just spending time with them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we're gonna get into that later, but first and foremost, we were talking about it just now. Action sequence, that opener. I dropped my phone. How'd you feel? Like, how'd you feel about the costume, and then how'd you feel about the flight sequence?
The costume was awesome. His wings were awesome. Him using like all of his like wings as shields, like 20 different. He kept using them as a shield. It was amazing. His little homie. Damn it,
Red Wing.
I wanted to call him Nightwing, but that is not correct.
I'm like, no,
it's not. It's a whole different ball of wax. Yeah, man, Red Wing,
yeah.
Like the boots.
Oh,
yeah, he's cool.
Okay, I was like, yeah, like
he's a homie, right? And I loved that they brought George St. Pierre back as like
Batroc the Leaper.
Yeah, man, like I love it. I love George St. Pierre is great. Like he was one of my favorite UFC fighters because he's like one of the GOATs. But man. And I was like, oh shit, he's gonna die, and he jumps out of the plane right before it blows up, man. But that whole action sequence, the flight, being able to see like almost through Falcon's eyes, like in his HUD for a couple seconds, well done.
Yeah.
Like so well done.
That POV, and what the coolest part is too with that is that they, a lot of the stuff in the episode was just in the trailer. And so, like, and we're getting it early. That's what I mean. It's like, I'm glad we're getting it early because I don't want to see the post. I don't see the action credits in the trailer, the end ones. The
you don't want the meat and potatoes of like what's going to happen in the show to be shown in the trailer, and you're like, oh, okay, I saw that.
Yeah, so to see that, and then number 2 is like, I don't know, it really that whole first Falcon scene just kind of demonstrated how Sam is sick. Like, Falcon's sick. I don't think we've ever spent that much time in the air with him. Like,
he was kicking ass. It was awesome.
It was so cool. And, like, to see him through the canyon. And then I don't know whose idea it was to make it in, like, them in, like, the flying squirrel flight suit things.
Yeah.
I loved it.
Yeah, and they're jumping from helicopter to helicopter. And then when they jump from one helicopter to the next, and then he flies into it, and he's just sitting in the helicopter with him, and he's like, what's up?
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, shit.
Yeah.
Here we go.
And him just, like... Oh my gosh. In midair, the stakes being as high as they were, then the heat-seeking missiles, and he's flying through, and then he flies through the helicopter to rescue the dude. I was like, that is so cool.
I did have to explain to my kids. They're like, why are those missiles following him? I said, well, where Red Wing lives is probably a source of heat because, he's got to be hot for those heat-seeking missiles to follow him.
Do you have a jetpack? Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, he's got his whole gig is putting off a heat source. So if anybody was wondering, his backpack's hot.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And he's hot. I'll say
it.
He
is hot, man.
But yeah, and also too, I just love, like for the fans that may not have caught it, I don't know, you caught it, but the return of Batroc the Leaper, that is the enemy that Cap goes against in Falcon Winter Soldier, or what am I saying? No, it's not.
No, in Winter Soldier.
In Winter Soldier.
Yeah, at the beginning.
At the very beginning on the island, when the dude's like doing gnarly MMA moves and Cap drops his shield and pretty much lays that fool out. That's the fool he lays out.
I thought, I think if we go back and watch that sequence, I thought they were very similar in like fighting tone. It was almost like the way, what's his name? Batroc the Leaper?
Batroc the Leaper.
Like, it was just the way his fighting style is, but that there was a very good like parallel between those two fight scenes, and I thought it was a cool callback to like, just seeing Sam basically fight the same way that, Steve would have fought the guy. It was awesome.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh. It is so fun.
It was fun.
I think it just, this episode gave both these characters just, not that Bucky needed it, because we kind of seen how he's a badass and he took on every Avenger in Civil War.
And he didn't really get anything in this episode as far as that goes.
Not action wise.
Right.
But yeah, but it's like, man, okay, I've never wondered in the therapy session, the person asks Bucky what he wants. And I think that's, for me as a fan, I'm like, usually I can tell you, I think that's what you show, that's what shows with good characters. You can pretty much say, this is what they want.
Yeah.
And like, it's very clear. I don't think it's very clear for Bucky. And I think this series is going to potentially answer that question for us. And so I'm really excited. And I like how they kind of did the tongue in cheek, like, how old are you 106 thing, and how out of touch he is. And like, there's that whole scene when the therapist is like, oh, you haven't even checked your phone. I'm the only person you called all week. And I'm like, he is still like mentally like catching up to our reality. You know what I mean? I'm like, what does an email mean to your grandpa?
Yeah, right. And she also takes his phone from him, and I don't know if you caught it. It's not like he's got an iPhone. He had like a flip phone.
Yeah.
She like closes it and throws it back to him, right? But that therapy session was fantastic, showing, like he's struggling with a lot of things, and it sounded like it was like almost like the government, whoever like gave him the pardon, was like, we're gonna give you this pardon, but you need to go get some help, buddy.
Yeah, of any character that needs therapy, and I'm even saying greater than Wanda, who created her in reality, Bucky needs therapy.
I agree.
There's no one whose mind has been messed with more than his.
I agree.
And so yeah, actually, how'd you feel about the therapy scene? And just like, I think that showed a lot of the character. And I think even from a generational perspective, I think that he's very much cut from the cloth of therapy is not, it's for the weak. He's like, I'm not crazy, blah, blah, blah. Like very just in
yeah, I don't
like you would have in the late 30s, early 40s.
Sure.
So how'd you like that sequence?
And as well, I loved it. But at first he doesn't want to answer any of her questions.
Yeah.
Like, you had another bad dream. He's like, nah, I'm good. And he just said, nah, I'm good. And she's like, I know when you're lying, like, knock it off. And he's like, fine, okay, I'm fine.
And it's the sequence of like literally him having the bad dream and then cutting to therapy and then him saying, I didn't have a bad dream.
I also like how she wrapped it up too, is like, I'm not just a therapist. Like I'm a soldier, so she's like whether it's, an Army or Marine therapist, she lets that be known at the end of the therapy session, which is also like, she was trying to talk to him like as a soldier.
Yeah, it wasn't unintentional. You know what I mean? They didn't just willy-nilly place him with someone, and I appreciate the fictitious care that the government put into where he's placed. But yeah, I like that scene, and I'm really excited to just spend more time with him because I want to see what's going on in his head, and again, I want to find out what he wants.
Well, yeah, we might know what's going on in his head. We don't know what he wants, but you can tell what's going on. I mean, he's super like remorseful. That dream sequence, obviously he's having nightmares because he's regretting the people that he's murdered.
Yeah, I think what what's cool too is that, okay, actually I might need your help. He's hanging out with those elderly people because that's just like, those are his boys or whatever, because he's also 106.
Yeah.
He's hanging out with those elderly people. How'd you feel about Bucky going on the first date?
Well, for a second, I couldn't place whether the old guy was like somebody I missed from another movie that he was that he was young with at one time, and he had just aged. I was like, is this one of his homies that has just aged up? And then you come to realize that he's hanging out with him because he ended up killing his son. Brutal. But also,
oh my gosh, is that what I watched the episode twice and I didn't get that? Thank you. I didn't understand.
So in the dream sequence, in his nightmare, when he's like, "Hail Hydra," and the kid's like, "Don't shoot me," like, "I won't tell anybody," he shoots him. That's the dude's son.
I didn't even put two and two together.
Yeah, because in the shrine's there, so he's hanging out with that guy, and he goes to tell him, like, he wanted to tell him. That's why he leaves the date. He's like, "I got to go tell this dude that I killed his son."
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, right. It makes the whole thing like way more. Whew. Yeah. It was like heavy, super heavy.
I didn't realize because he randomly and she was talking. I was like, I missed something there, and that's one reason why I watched it twice, and in case there's anything I missed. But like, wow.
Yeah, you missed a big one.
That was well. Now it's hit
yeah.
me even better that I'm if hopefully maybe or not hopefully, but maybe someone who's listening didn't know that either, and now they know, and we found out together.
Yeah. That was, I don't know, can I call it cute? It was like super cute the way he was just kind of like, they're having beers and she's clearly, with everything that's going on. He's so out of touch.
Yeah.
And she's like, what's wrong with this dude? But it's kind of endearing, I think, to her. She's like, oh, I don't know your deal, but I would like to know. It was funny, man.
Yeah, I really like the sequential writing too. Like whoever was doing that for Battleship, maybe we should get the writers down. But I really liked that and how it's like, oh, he can't spend a long period of time talking about things. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so like obviously therapy isn't working, so he's playing Battleship with her, and it's really more like snappy dialogue. Like, Miss, okay, now this is my guess. We can move on. They can keep the conversation going, right. And I think that's the best way for him to cope. And then he came to the conclusion that he needed to based on therapy because they want him to start righting these wrongs or whatever it be. He came to those conclusions and in the Battleship scene with the girl. And, she's saying, "You're like my dad." And yeah.
It was almost like that Battleship scene itself was like therapy for him as well. Like he's talking to somebody who's not his therapist because he clearly was like, he got up. He's like, "I got to go." Because he had to go talk to the old dude and let him know, which he didn't. But
we understand why too now. I didn't understand why. I was like, "Why you go seeing your buddy?"
Shrine. There was a shrine right there with the kid's face.
I did not put two and two together.
Right there in front of you. It's all good. You were distracted or something.
I was just hanging out. You know what I do on my computer while I watch those is I type notes, and if I type the notes, but I remember literally I know exactly what you're talking about. And he says, I didn't see anything. Oh, anyways.
Yep.
I think one of the core themes we're going to see with Bucky and his list is I'm really excited to see it enacted because we're going to see Bucky with his list. And I think Bucky's whole journey within coping with Steve's loss is just dealing with loss in general.
Does it remind you of Arya and her list?
Oh my gosh. Now it does.
Yeah, right?
I missed that one too.
You got a little list. You cross people off, but he's crossing people off in the good way where she's murdering people. He's like, okay, I made that up.
Yeah.
I made up for my mistakes.
Yeah, so he's trying.
He's the reverse Arya.
I think Bucky's whole arc is going to be coping with loss, and Sam's whole arc is now coping with legacy. So on the flip side, like, because, for example, I think Sam's holding on to the past where it's like, the shield isn't mine. And I really love that dialogue and that he leans into that, and then he gives it to the government. That's what he does.
Yeah. And yeah, his speech was great. Mm-hmm. And I did not watch it twice. I wanted to, but I didn't have time. I was too busy watching that long-ass Justice League movie.
Good.
But I'm just going to skip to the end. At the end, when they're about to introduce, that whole new whatever Cap or
they called him Captain America, but I'm like, that's U.S. Agent.
U.S. Agent. Is that guy using the same speech that Sam gave? I'm like, I think he's just reusing the speech that Sam gave.
I didn't notice.
Like, I think it was so like, just like they just ripped everything from him. Like Sam gave that speech and it was great. I think that guy was just giving the same speech. Like, what a prick.
It's what, really, it's like, they're like, thank you so much for giving us. The thing that I noticed the most is I didn't realize he gave them back the shield. And then they're like, thank you so much for like doing that. La, la, la. Even though that was never the intention. But then on top of that, they gave him back the shield, and then they gave it to someone else. That's when I'm like, oh my gosh. And I loved this, like, very, it's not sneaky, but it was like the cameo with Rhodey in there, and he's like, why didn't you take it? I'm like, oh, I'm so glad we had like that dynamic between those two dudes.
Yeah, standing in that like Cap museum too was great.
A very beautiful scene.
Yeah.
And I really like that set piece that they kind of it's been a staple now in Captain America lore for a couple sequences.
I thought in my mind though, I was like, look, he don't have no problem walking anymore. Remember how he like broke his back? Like,
Yeah.
those legs work good. He doesn't even limp, man.
Oh yeah, he literally has like robo legs.
Yeah, I know.
He's full Darth Maul in like Clone Wars or
Yeah,
whatever.
fully. Did you just hit your microphone?
I kicked it, and I even got a new mic stand.
We've graduated from smacking the microphone to just straight up kicking him.
Yeah, I'm passionate. Okay, but wait, this is the thing, because so we see Bucky with the loss in his list, but Sam's narrative is simultaneously happening with the Cap legacy and his family's boat.
Yeah, and while the like Bucky thing is like, you know, it's messed up because he's killing dudes and like, you know, he's feeling remorse for killing that guy's son. Like Sam's thing is so much more like fucked up because like he's like trying to save the family boat and trying to help his sister out with the family business. She wants to sell it all. And he's like, don't worry, we'll get you a loan. Like, no problem. Like, I'm an Avenger. And then they go to the bank, dude, and the guy shuts him down. And it's like, it's just fucked up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The guy wants a selfie. He's like, I can't help you, man. You haven't been around. There's no income.
And I like that they addressed that.
Yeah. And also, like, you know, he was kind of like, don't you guys, didn't like, does he say something about Stark leaving you money or something like, whatever that he says.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, man, it doesn't work like that. Like, it's basically off of goodwill. And I was like, dang, superheroes don't get paid? Just no wonder they're supervillains. Go rob a bank.
Literally, you know, they have the compound for the Avengers, but I think that's really for someone more like Wanda or Vision, where it's like, we don't have a home.
Yeah.
You know, and so I like that. I just like
But
it.
I loved the interaction between him and his sister, where he couldn't help getting snapped away, and she did the best that she could when he wasn't there, and he's explaining that. And she also says to him, well, you ran off and joined the Air Force. Mm-hmm. Like when you the first time you disappeared wasn't because of the snap. And it's just like, damn.
Yeah, and even the dialogue with the bank teller, like, I just think, you know, it's so smart, and it just, I really just, you appreciate and you see the thought that goes into an episode like this.
Yeah.
Where he says, oh yeah, like, no, that used to be the old policy, but with everyone coming back, we've had to honor so many. It's like they're running, you know, banks getting empty-handed. Like, there's financial ramifications or economic ramifications with everyone coming back.
Yeah, and you understand that. You mean you can't, like, the guy's doing his job, but he's kind of a douchebag about it, you know? But yeah, it is super thought out. Like, they were like, you know, the writers are, you know, they didn't leave any holes.
Yeah, and it's all been set up. Like, I'm just so looking forward to where the series is going. I love it.
I don't really have any idea, like I was saying before. Like, that's why I'm excited, is I don't really know where this is going to end up at. Where before with Wanda, I'm like, oh, Magneto, mutant, spa. Like, nothing happened, but that's what I was thinking the whole time. So I'm really glad I can just sit back and watch this one.
Could you imagine if this one's the one with mutants? Like,
yeah, I could. I mean, yeah, sure.
They just be Baron Zemo's like, let there be mutants.
No, that would be stupid, but
I don't know. I'm not rooting for that.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna wind down because these episodes are only meant to be 30 minutes because Cameron only has so much time to edit. But also, watch the series and then come listen along. And remember, send us fan questions. I actually have our very first fan question from a great fan, Kyle Kurtz. He DM'd us on Instagram and he said this: I guess I haven't ever thought of it until this show when Bucky said his age. While Cap was frozen, he was murdering. How is he so young still? And so
that's a great question.
That is a great question. I'm like, again, when it comes to being thought out, there's a transition for you. When it comes to things that are well thought, I'd say that question is very well thought. So thank you, Kyle, for submitting a question. And now Jesse and I texted this to Jesse and we talked about it. So you said you were confused too.
Well, he mentions it twice. I think he mentions it to the therapist, and then he mentions it to his date. He like says it to her, and she's like, "Haha, you're 106, right?" And I was like, "Wait a minute. How if Cap was frozen? Why isn't Bucky old?
Yeah,
he should be old, right?
Yeah, and I think that. Well, I think technically he is because
he is old.
His age is literally just him being like, "I was born this year."
Yeah,
take that as you will.
Yep.
But obviously, in Civil War and in Winter Soldier, you see him. He's a sleeper agent, meaning, you know, that he goes on ice and then they just wake him up sporadically to do missions. And so let's say, honestly,
missions, they wake him up to assassinate people.
Yeah, no, they're missions,
and they put him back on ice.
Then they put him back on ice, and so I think that's the big thing is that he I wouldn't say he spent more than, you know, a month doing missions, you know, into the time he was frozen to not, because I'd imagine he gets the job done very quickly.
And I think that now that you know, like, oh yeah, I think that they showed that I mean, they didn't explain that, but they put him back into that chair.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Isn't there even like the hypnosis thing that they say to wake him up and to put him back?
Yeah, to like reactivate him.
Yeah.
And oh my gosh, that's one of my favorite parts of Civil War, where they just literally in Zemo. Oh my gosh, that's where Zemo's coming in to just read the, the sequence of words. Yeah, the password that,
if you will,
activates the Winter Soldier for his mission. And oh my gosh, I freaking love it.
But that's right. Isn't that kind of like his cryo chamber that he's in right there?
Yeah,
right?
it's the very opening scene of Civil War.
Yeah. Yeah.
Also,
that makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
They could have had a little flashback scene. Whatever. They could have mentioned something. I mean, everything's so well thought out. They could have mentioned it again, but I guess they didn't have to.
There's also still time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think that, I wouldn't say he's much older, because that's why he has an age, because he would just go back to sleep.
Sure.
But yeah, so thanks for that fan question. Okay.
But now that he does not get to sleep, like same as like how Cap would have, he will age now, right? He's like normal guy, other than being a super soldier.
Absolutely.
Right. Okay.
Absolutely. Okay.
Oh, hold on. So this is 6 months after Endgame, and Captain America Steve is still alive.
No,
he's dead.
He's dead now.
Did it show that?
That was his funeral that Sam spoke at.
Oh, it was? In that episode?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't get that.
He might.
You
Okay.
miss
Oh,
things,
wait.
I miss things. Are you sure?
Old Cap. Okay, how's this? I don't think we have a confirmed death of Old Cap, but because he was the old man when he hit him with the shield.
Yeah.
If he's alive, he's like 90, 100.
No,
whatever.
yeah.
He's actually 106, whatever it is.
Oh, I guess you would be right.
That's
old.
And so I don't think. And Kevin Feige and fans.
And I don't need him back. I'm just wondering,
need
like,
that,
is Old Cap dead now? He
might, it's for all intents and purposes, yes, he's dead.
Sure.
He's not going to come
back. And
back.
if he's not, he's just hanging out in his rocker.
Kind of like that scene from House of M. Remember when they go to Brooklyn and they look for all the mutants?
Oh, yeah.
And they try to wake him up, but he's an old man. They're like, we're going to leave him. That's what's happened.
They lifted that from that story.
Oh, yeah, they did.
For sure.
I think so. I love it.
And they were like, let's leave him alone. Look, he's old and happy. Peaceful. We're not going there.
Okay, so I have 2 more questions for you, and then we're going to wrap it up, because these are shorter episodes. What would you rate this episode out of 5?
Oh, we're on a 5-star rating now?
We're on a 5-star rating
That's cool.
For an episodic, and then we are going to eventually do, once the series wraps, that's going to be our Keanu Reads Comics episode. It's going to be a series review, so we'll do that out of 10.
Oh, man, coming out of the gates like that, there was nothing that I disliked about that. I'm not going to give it a 5, but it's a 4.5 for sure.
Great, yeah. And that's the cool part about this scale. It's a little easier to navigate. I'd say, honestly, I'd probably meet you in a 4.5. It wasn't, I don't know, it didn't lag at all. I'm excited to see the Flag Smashers and where that goes next.
Yeah.
How do you feel, or is there anything you're looking forward to? Like, or anticipate?
Yeah, I want to see how they're going to bring Zemo back into the, is he have something to do with the Flag Smashers? Are they unrelated? How is he going to come back? How are they going to, are they going to fight with each other, or is he in agreement with what they're doing in their whole movement? I'm curious about that. So. Yeah,
I'm excited to see his motivations, because it was very clear during the last one. It was very clear during the last film or Civil War, what his motivations were, and then how that came to fruition. And so I'm excited for that. But for this one, I'm excited. I'm number one, very excited to see Zemo, but I'm also so excited to see the U.S. agent stuff, because I think we are going to get remember the fight from Civil War where it's Cap and Bucky fighting Iron Man, and there's that sequence of them throwing the shield to each other mid-fight?
Mm-hmm.
I think we are going to get a fight sequence on that level with this film. Or with this movie.
They'll explain the U.S. agent, or new Cap, whatever you want to call him. Is he a super soldier? Did they soldier this dude up? Or is he just a guy that is... a guy?
I'm like, yes to both. From what I recall, U.S. Agent was it's a moniker. It was a title that Cap would take on when he. So in multiple storylines, he's obviously his title is Captain America, but sometimes he doesn't quite agree with what is going on politically in America, or does America even need me to be a captain, or can I be a captain of the world, whatever it is. he would take on the moniker U.S. agent when he didn't want to be known as the guy who defended his country. But then that moniker got tossed around. And I think for this one, they are just claiming this guy's... I think he's...
So is he a super soldier?
I don't think he's a super soldier by taking the super soldier serum. What I think he might be enhanced. You know what I mean?
Okay.
But like, because the whole thing is nobody can duplicate the super soldier serum.
And we'll find that out. They'll explain it.
Yeah. And
he can't come in kicking ass and like... We're like, why is this dude kicking ass? They'll explain it.
Is it just me, or does he look like Joffrey? That's who I see.
No.
I literally see just Joffrey. And
Do you know who the actor is that plays him?
No, I didn't look it up yet.
No, he doesn't look like Joffrey.
Okay, that might just be me.
He looks like that dude from Harry Potter.
Yes. Which one?
The funny looking one.
That's all of... No, never mind. I like the Harry Potter cast. A good-looking cast, but that's...
Except for the funny looking one.
Okay, is it Neville? Because I don't see Neville in that guy.
I don't know.
I don't know. All right, well, thank you so much, Jesse, for coming on the super special episode of Cameron Reads Comics. Remember to send us your questions, and you can DM me or Jesse. We'll repost it. We're really excited and to keep doing these episodic reviews. It's a great series so far, and we're excited to see where it goes.
Yeah.
Make sure to go follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. If you're listening on YouTube, make sure to clobber that like button and press subscribe. And please, please, please leave us a 5-star rating and review on iTunes. Thank you, Jesse. We're so glad to see you.
See you next week.
Bye.
Bye.